When it comes to intimidating thugs, asserting his dominance in the streets, or simply whining and dining, very few can compete with the awesomeness that is Batman. Before the dark, menacing, brooding Dark Knight persona was ever thought of, we got this version back in the 80s. And I have to say, it was one hell of a 180, going from the comical style of the Batman and Robin that we've come to know and love when we were kids, to the dark, I'm going to nearly kill you and make you crap yourself Batman that we got now. Because he uses terror, he uses fear to intimidate his foes. Whereas back then, it was just a little bit more slapstick and a little bit of comedy, but he still had an intimidating persona because it was Batman. It's just the intimidation factor didn't play out or wasn't emphasized on until much, much later. I mean, when you think about it, who's going to be intimidated by this? Look at him. Just look at that face. It just makes you want to laugh. Seriously. But then when you have this, then you wind up crapping yourself. I mean, intimidation as a weapon is a wonderful thing to use, but it just doesn't come off like that in the old school kiddie version, whereas it was about 90% use fear to subjugate my enemies and make them tell me what I want to know. But let's not get it twisted. Fear isn't the only thing he's got. I mean, when you can do things like this to the likes of Superman, you've definitely got a lot going for you. Batman is capable of many different fighting styles, some self-taught, some taught by masters. In fact, it's recorded that Batman has mastered 127 different styles of martial arts, including ninjutsu, kendo, fencing, judo, taekwondo, and parkour, just to name a few. Now, besides the obvious animation differences and the differences in mannerisms, one major thing that stood out to me of the Super Friends cartoon is that Batman was almost always seen with multiple members of the Justice League. And I mean, naturally, this was a show that concentrated on all of them, but not enough of the heroes in my book got their own specific screen time or their own specific episodes. I mean, later on down the line, before and after, they got their own shows, but here it was just a collaboration of all of them, hence why I guess it was called Super Friends. Another thing that's very noticeable about the Super Friends cartoon is that it often revolved around the plot of the week shtick. There was always some new plan that the Legion of Doom would put before them, or even some enemies that said that they would help the Legion of Doom in exchange for this, that, and the third. Whereas in Batman the Animated Series or the Justice League, it tends to center around one specific plot that might go into two parts or might go into multiple parts, but the character development was certainly a lot more driven in the 90s version. In the Super Friends, there was always a lot of different forms of teams. Superman might team up with Wonder Woman, Batman might team up with the Atom, Black Vulcan, and Samurai, and so on. But in Batman the Animated Series, where they didn't concentrate on so many different heroes, it was all about Batman, but the team element was still there. You did have Robin, you did have Batgirl, and you did have Alfred. And frankly, I think Alfred was the most badass of them all. But I will talk about Alfred on another day. One very important thing to remember, however, about superheroes, at least in the Marvel or DC universe, is that they are just human. At least most of them are just human. Batman is only human, so he can be defeated. Although, let me warn you, that is not an easy task by any stretch of the imagination. Though if you're feeling lucky or just stupid, go ahead and try. I'll wait.